Hello, friends. Hello, world. Hello, loyal audience. So today is video number 3 about this AI and continuation. I'm trying to actually explain how I feel about it and the facts that I know about it. And the other thing is uh, shortfalls and the consequences of implementing AI, as well as health, pollution, and today will be investment. So this is, I would say, if you recall, in 1991, right? September 11. Now, in September 11, 1991, there was a lot of short sales on the market of the 4 airlines that were involved in the terrorist attack on New York and here and there, right? Uh, But then we know, like 3 or 4 months before that, just about May, there was a crash of the markets of the dot-com bust, if you recall, the dot-com bust. So basically, a few years before that, the dot-com was building up, right, in a crescendo, taking off and accelerating upward, and Americans were convinced that this is an excellent opportunity for investment, and they were made to think so, and they were the investors, those beneficiaries, hidden super billionaire beneficiaries, and their surroundings, something similar to you know, they kind of deceived people and put a lot of glitter around investing and so on and so forth, right? And that this is the future, right? But then once people, including older people, including those who are retired, including some even young people, put all their savings, right, into the stock market, investing in .com, right? Suddenly it crashed and all those people lost their savings and so on. I do recall people who were 70 or 80 years old went back to work because they no longer can afford living. Why? Because the stock market and those bunch hidden hands that you see and you don't see basically stole all that they saved, right? That was big deal, right? That was big deal. And then September 11 comes 3 months later, 4 months later, and the theft of the government and here and there continued on massive scale, right? The frenzy ever intensifying. I do recall that myself. I did not invest, but I worked in a company that actually builds dot-coms, right? And then building dot-coms, and this company basically hosted also dot-coms, right? So we hosted dot-coms, and I used to build the infrastructure for them. Uh, Quite few, as a matter of fact. I did quite few. I remember even some names of those dot-coms that I built the infrastructure for, such as networking, such as servers, and so on and so forth, right? You name it, right? I've done all that. And then that company basically gave me a lot of, when I was hired, that company gave me a lot of shares, right? They gave me options. It's called options, and I had options. And you know what? I thought I was gonna retire on that, but it was gonna be vested in just about May, right? And then that's when it crashed. And then when just right afterwards, they laid me off, right? They're finished with me as advanced expertise and so on. And they offered me to buy. They offered me to buy the shares that are still in my names, and they wanted me not just to not just that I've lost them or lost their value and didn't yet vest, right? They offered me to buy them for, I don't know, a few $100,000 or so, which I really didn't have, right? I mean, that's how cold and brazen and they were. So now AI is really something similar, about 1,000 times as bad, right? They were preparing for this for a long time, and this is going to really basically sweep. If you, it is going to be like if you have a bottle of water or a jar of water, and then you bring uh, um, a big towel, right? And then dip it in it, and it's going to suck everything, right? The water is going to be absorbed by the towel or the sponge or something of the sort, right? So the first comment I'm going to make on this is fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. I personally, my personal approach to it or considerations is I will never deal with AI, never use it unless accidentally, it came up on my phone or something of the sort. But I will try to learn not to use it. I will never work at an AI. I will never invest in an AI, and I do recommend anyone who is watching this not to use, not to invest, not to work with AI, because this here is an apocalypse. This here is apocalypse, right? Uh, Financial and economical apocalypse. Those guys who did that ugly, they pulled the terrorist job of the .com, and then they followed it up with the terrorist act of 9/11. They're now ready to really wipe out the whole world, right? With this AI, artificial intelligence. So you've been warned, folks. I mean, I'm talking about if it's New York town and there's like 1.8 gig of 1.8 gigawatts and so on. That's 1,800 million watts. Do you know what that is? That's like a small nuclear reactor. The other thing is I've heard about the water contamination, how much it uses, and so on and so forth. And then, well, you and that, right? In the previous video, I explained to you what happened and what happens. They may try to convince you that this is not the case, blah, blah, blah. Do your own research, really. And what I'm telling you is something that I've known about myself. It's not made up. So between me and the AI as a person, as the distance between two different galaxies. That never happened in my case. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. I'm going to do something we do in the Middle East, as a matter of fact, right? That's where my Y chromosome comes from. If you don't know what that means, ask those who know. So the investment is a problem. Right now, those guys do not really care. If you still have $1, they want to take it from you and send you for some war somewhere, in the world, right? Just like they send you to war in Iraq. So as you are so busy not to be able to, there is after the .com failure and so on, people began to feel anxiety and unease, and there would probably have been some kind of a revolt or anarchy and so on. So they sent you to war, killed 2 million people in Iraq and so on, and many of you got killed in the post invasion of Iraq in 2003 and so on and so forth, right? And all these wars are for that little country in the Middle East. So you guys are killing and getting killed just for that particular state in the Middle East, that very small state, right? Small in size, but really big in influence. They control the U.S. government, not 100%, but guess what? And now is the time. This is folks. This is apocalypse. If you don't believe me, you will. That this is apocalypse on an investment level, right? So you and that, right? Now, those guys may call me anti-Semite and so on and so forth. Just not true. Why? Because I myself have a Semite in me, so I cannot be anti myself. To us, we Semite, supposedly Arabs, we don't talk about that. For us, that doesn't mean shit, right? Excuse my language. And in that case, that's fine. Like if Rabbi Jeffrey Epstein, and Rabbi Michael Meyer of the movie Halloween wants to call me anti-Semite, that's fine. They can call me all they want. Those devils, right? They can even come here, grab me, and sacrifice me if they want to, right? If they can, if they dare. So that's fine. You can call me that if you want to, but here's some fact about Uh, Here's some fact about these what's called Semitic thing, right? It's really not one thing. It's really two parts. There is that upper part, the upper echelon, and there is the lower masses, who are actually encouraged and taught to be predatory against fellow man, right? Easy life and so on, and there's no hereafter, there's no heaven, there's no hell, and so on. Excuse me. Right, and so on. So do what you want to do. So the best, easiest, get quick rich schemes and scams. For them, everybody is gonna expire one sooner or later, right? So they do what they do. I mean, to me, it sounds like eventually what will happen is when all is done and perfected in the world of those upper echelons or lower echelons, let's call them lower echelons, of uh, of that world of Zion, uh, they will eventually clean up house, and all those that supposedly have are privileged and not us like us goyim and so on will be cleaned up and eliminated. Maybe not all, maybe some, right? So that's that. Now I do recall when like a term that they used to encourage people, and they when investing or buying lottery or something of the sort, right? They used to come up with a term for you right in front of your face. And that went like this on advertisement. You, humongous, right? Humongous, right? So the return is humongous. But they extended that a little bit, right? They stretched the humongous a little bit, and it turned out to be like they were calling you mongoose. Humongous, right? So humongous, humongous, right? So if you now want to go ahead and invest and so on and lose all that you have, right? Your retirement, everything that you have, they're going to cut it out, right? So that will be because you are greedy, you are voracious, you are humongous, you are drooling like dogs and so on and so forth. Well, we goyim, right? I'm like that. So for those who are being deceived into thinking that it's time to really sweep everything and then return the world to Animal Farm, you're just nothing but humongous, right? Humongous, right? I say the upper echelon, and sometimes they say the elite, right? You keep hearing about the conspiracy of the elite and so on. Yeah, there's like that private club, right? But mothers, maybe they're not even human. I really kid you not. Sometimes I get that feeling that they're the type that appear and disappear, right? And But these are not upper echelon or elite. When you say elite, it's the learned kind, it's the inventive kind, it's the humanistic kind, it's the benevolent kind, the philanthropist kind, the charitable kind, and so on and so forth. So when you take those people who invented math in the Middle East long time ago, and physics and so on, and started humanity and the new humanity, that's elite. These are erudite. It's about erudism, learned type, and that is humanistic type, right? So it's got many multiple elements and within it, and many facets to it, right? The facade is the same as the what's within. The ones that are driving what's going on now, causing mayhem and destruction and economical calamities and wars uh, and and pandemics and epidemics are not the elite or upper echelon. They are, in fact, the parasites, the leeches, and the rats, underground and so on, and worms and so on. That's more of a good definition here and there. They're unable to survive on their own or move forward, right? They are unable to think, they are unable to produce things, and so on and so forth. So they become parasites, right? Again, not all, I am not saying everybody here, like I said, my Y chromosome come from Arabia a long time ago. I'm all kind of mixed up between Asians and whites and Arabs so for us Muslims and Arabs, this word Semitism is just a piece of history. That's all there is to it. we don't even take it into consideration as something serious or whatnot, right? But some people who are really not even Semite this today in this time and age, right, and in this time and history of or epoch, right, they have nothing to do with Semitism, and they just go accuse you of it if you try to resist, right? So if you resist, resistance is futile. Otherwise, if you do, you will be anti-Semitic, right? Again, not all. I'm not saying all, right? Some are just helpless. Some are, whatever that is, that is, right? I do distinguish actually. I try not to label the entire flock as such, right? I try hard to distinguish between those vile bunch or individuals and everybody else. You cannot include everybody else. You cannot go wipe out a country like Syria because you want to own it and then destroy 85% of its population, or Iraq or Germany or the Caucasus or in Africa or in Arabia or in Iran or you can't do that. And eventually you will be all alone if you're successful, but you're not going to be successful. So that's the definition of the elite and or parasites. What do you think? Green color. Well, I think that's cyan, between green and something like that. So you remember the 9/11 short sales, right? And you remember those who talk about short sales do not talk about dot-com bust, right? The dot-com, that was a colossal heist, right? And now AI is apocalypse. If that was considered a calamity, that dot-com bust was considered a calamity on individual and social level, right? Economically and financially, right? Uh, uh, that's my screensaver. My children come up, so I say hello, right? So, anyways, I love my children. Uh, they're goyim too. I don't think so. I think I am a goyim, but they're not. Guess who? So, but now there are two things, right? There is the Iran war, right? Uh-huh. Iran war. And there was apparently some short sales before the war started. Guess what? History repeats itself, especially with those rats and parasites, right? They're always up for something. And now it's a calamity. It was a calamity. Now it's an apocalypse. You will witness if you are drawn into this investment frenzy of AI and so on and so forth. This is probably, I would say, 100 times, if not 1,000 times, worse than the dot-com bust. Uh, right? So the Iran war, notice the Iran war, right? The Iran war is really fake. I know from like real good sources, spiritual sources, and of course, evidence of actions, evidence of interactions, evidence of semi-apparent behavior and who's who and what's not. There is that term under table, right? Some people, like the mafia probably, they deal under table. You have no way of knowing, right? But you can clearly see it. Iran's regime is really a surrogate of Israel. It was an Israeli operation similar to what happened in Iraq, right? Now Iraqi government is a surrogate of Israel. Iran's regime is a surrogate of Israel. Totally, I mean, really in its totality. Egypt is ruled by Israel, but they are parasites, right? Not the total government and so on and so forth. However, those religions, like for the Goyim, I, whatever that is, right? Right? No, that and that and so on. They're spreading, right? But apparently not like totally successful. However, that's not enough. What they usually do after that spreads, they come into the country, like, such as Germany, such as wherever it is, right? Such as Russia during the revolution, the brothers Rabbi Lenin and Rabbi Stalin, and they do what they do, gulags and whatnot and so on. Doesn't matter. if they have presence or control, right? It does not matter. No, what matters is very simple, is that you will be subdued. The big brother, Rabbi Big Brother with those glasses, you know, like those New World Order glasses, call it what you will, right? Is gonna do you like Winston on individual and society level, right? On individual and country level, right? Or society or race or whatever it is. That's the thing, right? And now AI is really a milestone in their drive to return mankind into back into animal farm. So Iran really is helping is helping. You know, they and Trump. You know, here's a fact. They tell you that they killed that Trump killed Qasem Soleimani in 2018, 2019. That's not true. The guy was killed in 2016 when he was attacking Aleppo. It was a joint operation attack against Aleppo between Israel, United States, Iran, Assad, Russia, and Jordan, and all those Arab regimes that are surrogates of Israel as well, right? That's where he got killed. So why didn't Iran, if they are really antagonists of United States or Trump or whoever it is, right? Why don't they back then say no? He was killed in 2016. Fake assassination attempts, huh? Let me tell you something about Trump. Now you see gas prices go up, right? And here in where I live, right? There, like the gallon is already above $5. When I moved here, it was far from the city. It was much cheaper than even the city, right? The city was, so 350, like about 350 here. It was like 220 or something of the sort, and that's like 5 months ago. Now, starting in January, right now, and then it stayed like the same price for about 2 3 months. In the past 2 months, it rose by at least by probably 150%. So uh, if it was 220, I remember 228, right? When I first bought gas here, and there was a time when it was like 216 or something. Now it's yesterday I looked at it, it was 529 or something of the sort. Today it may be higher, right? Now yeah, this is no news for you, right? You already know that, you've seen that, you paid so much money, and I made my point about it. Now I want to tell you something. There are reasons for that. Number one, super billionaires, bam bam, on your account, your savings. You cannot live luxury anymore according to them, right? So they want to take that money from you by way of gas. Now, I can tell you this. I have a feeling, and that's a strong feeling, that gas prices will not go back down. They'll keep climbing up. Why? Well, because, uh, like I said, if you have a president who really won by, rigged election and so on, computers and whatnot, compromised delegates and whatnot, right? If he's demanding $10 billion from the government for some tax leak that probably was friendly or whatever it is, right? I don't want to speculate about that because you guys know what's going on. Each and every one of you do feel probably something about that. $10 billion, Someone like that doesn't care about the country and doesn't care to bring down the gas prices. And of course, the Iran war is the reason. What kind of war is that? Think about it, right? Right? So gas prices will not go down. The other reason is they want to force you to buy Musk Mobile or Tesla, those Tesla electric rickshaws, because certain someone wants to be super billionaire and trillionaire and whatnot, right? Think about that, right? So the people, the administration right now, legitimate or not, right? It's not the type that will acquire or seize more money or collect more money by way of increasing gas prices. It's not the type that is doing that because there is some problems, right? Financial or economical problems. It's got multiple reasons, multiple causes, right? Uh, uh, and they demonstrate about that. Oh, look, Iran war, and they bicker about it and so on. But it's not true, right? So now they want to force people to buy those electric rickshaws, right? So this certain someone can pocket some more money. That said, I have a point to make about the trip to China. Why do you think the trip to China is taking place? Well, very simple. Guess who's going with Trump, right? Those there, they want to sell a piece of the United States, so that this certain rickshaw, electric rickshaw, Mobile, can collect some money. So they're going to sell part of the United States, whether it's whatever it is, right? Perhaps, AI and whatnot, right? Because those certain someones want money, right? Those monsters, uh, Miller, Musk, and Besant, and so these are originally all from the East, right? They want to sell part of the United States to China. Why? Because they want some money, right? Not that they need any money anymore. I mean, well, it's all virtual, so any breakage or failure of virtuality renders them homeless, right? Because these guys, I mean, we're not talking Steve Jobs here. Steve Jobs and his products probably paid the United States government. He never took any subsidies, he or his Apple company that he founded, and so on. He and his company, rest in peace, Steve Jobs, paid the government probably, and on individual level when you buy a phone or something of the sort, probably over $1 trillion, right? So they're selling the United States right now. The threat to China is selling the United States because some people want some money. That's all, right? And Trump is really partner in this. He gets his cut, his share, right? That's why they took him there. He went there, and they're all partners, right? Even though it seemed like they had been bickering or quarreling about between him and Musk Mobile and so on in the early days, right? Like a few months ago. All that's fake, folks. All that is fake. What matters to them is how they can uh, how they can steal or harvest some money on account of people. Doesn't matter how. To sell the United States, they will do that, right? Uh, Now there's something that is lurking around the corner, behind the scene. It's just began to show clear its ugly head, right? And it's on the horizon. It's a little bit ominous, right? Not for me, right? But it seemed like this Hanta virus or Junta, the Junta. I heard this from a Russian guy ways back. Junta, like I think he got like goatee as well, like and so on. Junta, the Junta, we call them the Junta, and so on. I still remember that day, and I was like, "What's Junta?" And it turns out to be like a bunch of people that dominate the government, and they start like working in the background like a mafia, right? Well, that's what we have here, and that's what they had back there in the Soviet Union back then, right? It was still Soviet Union, Russia, Bolsheviks, right? So now that's it. I think uh, uh, that hantavirus is being prepared for something like coronavirus. Coronavirus, if you recall, in the coronavirus time, uh, the whole world was closed. I remember here in the United States, I was working in a hospital system and so on. I mean, the whole thing is closed. I remember businesses, some restaurants, some they just closed, basically permanently went out of business because people were didn't have money, people and so on and so forth. Remember that? My thinking is that now instead of doing another September 11, maybe it's the Junta or Hanta virus. Along with AI and so on and so forth. So as you can see, things are being prepared. And then I want you to link, I did say that in video number 2. I want you to link between the $500 granted for AI for some 3 guys. One is, I think they're all born and raised in Israel and immigrated to the United States. And then the nullification of elections as was declared and stated by Trump himself that you don't have to worry about election, that he will fix it. I have a feeling, and then watch my other two videos because they will explain to you what I mean by that, virtualization and whatnot. Folks, what's coming is something apocalyptic. You guys don't see it. I don't know what else to say, right? So the hantavirus could actually be being prepared to close the world, right? And I myself never heard of it before. Junta, the junta virus. That the junta makes this virus, right? Right. So the hantavirus. All right. Uh, so the whole thing now is just basically petrifying the world, taking all that money that is left. Now, I speak my mind sometimes. I say things I shouldn't say. Like, for example, I wanna betray those. There is this certain big bank in Zimbabwe, and this particular child has $1 in it. Sorry, I have to say that. Now I know that those parasites are gonna go destroy the country in order to extract that dollar, and put it to waste, right? And kill most of his people and something like that. Sorry, I made this statement, right? So more money for billionaires selling America for the electric rickshaws, right? 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 Now they keep telling you that Nixon actually opened up China for America. No, it's really the other way around. He opened up America for China. Nixon is not what you know. Nixon is a changed name. He's got different name altogether. Do I know that name? No. But I know from the behavior that, well, you know what? A few hundred years ago, it was like different, right? So Nixon opened up a, he opened up United States for China. Now, a certain gentleman told me that the United States began to change ever since World War II. No, it started to change way before that. I can tell you where. There is a infestation, right? Every time a civilization or a country crashes or begins to suffer, or society goes into upheaval and divisions and diseases and so on, it's that infestation. It's the same infestation. So the same infestation, right, has actually arrived in the United States. And it's when Abraham Lincoln, was a president. That was basically, the Civil War was a military coup, right? That infestation basically started to take over the government slowly but surely, right? And it actually materialized fully, I believe, during the Reagan years, and that's when really it became like Iran's regime now, like Syria's regime now, like so and so, right? Abraham Lincoln has a like third or fourth grandfather called Mordecai, right? And Ulysses Grant and along with Robert E. Lee, they're brothers, really. And it was decided who's going to win or who's going to lose. You, poor you. Similar to World War II and World War I. So Iran's regime, I know for a fact, right, is a surrogate of Israel. There's no doubt about that. It has always been from the get-go. Now, if you recall, suppose Iran's war now and crisis, it's not real. It's fake. It's got to do with what I just told you, right? But suppose it was real, maybe like 1 per trillion, right? No, it's not. If you recall, Trump had been through the same, in the same situation, caused and started the same thing before, and that is the North Korea crisis. In the first Trump, right? The first Trump, and there's the second Trump. If you recall, the North Korea, and there was like the prospect of a nuclear war and so on. Back then, I wasn't too sure about that, right? I think there was some. First, I suspected that it was Putin who was harassing America. You know, he is the one who armed North Korea with long range, or gave them the technology for long range missiles and so on, right? Uh, but I also, in the back of my head, thought maybe this whole thing is a fake, right? You know, they're trying to achieve something that is so and so. But yeah, I mean, it didn't go anywhere. Neither did, neither will the Iran crisis. Why? Because Iran's regime is a brother of Trump. They're both surrogate of Israel. Let me tell you something about AI, artificial intelligence software. AI intelligence is, artificial intelligence software is a freeware, right? Those who invented it actually put it out as a free license, so nobody can claim money on it, right? You can, if you want to use it for non-profit and so on and so forth, and right. Uh, uh, those who are trying to like rub billions on top of it, right? Uh, they don't own it, right? And they owe all that money plus penalties for those who wrote the freeware. Now, freeware will always be freeware, meaning somebody releases a freeware on the internet, right? A new idea, new technology, you know, that very new thing, right? Others can come and actually add value to it, like fix the bugs, add modules, modify the code, and so on. But it'll always be free, regardless who pitches in, who assists in improving the software or doing the next release and so on. They are the ones that own it, and it's freeware. So when somebody comes to sue somebody else on account of using freeware, neither of them, right? You know, the uh, court thing between ChatGPT and whatnot, folks. You know, nobody, not one of them owns it. They all these billions for those who wrote it. Otherwise, you cannot use it commercially. It's that simple. It's freeware. So freeware, is what it is. You can search. The internet is full on of essays and explanations and so on about freeware, what freeware is, right? So, like I said, Trump is there to sell some America, right, for his clan, the one that he took there, and then for himself, he gets his cut as well. Maybe Taiwan is on a chopping block as well. This guy is willing to sell pieces of America here, right? Uh, just to get billions, right? And then those, uh, you know, the parasite bunch can, you know, enable China, for cash, right? So Nixon, like I said, I was talking about earlier, that started in World War II. Like the destruction of the United States started in the Civil War, not World War II, and that's when it began to really crash down and so on. And between now and then, they send you to kill millions and get killed in the millions and so on. Let's say. Uh, Things are not looking good, folks. I mean, to me, uh, I'm a citizen of this country, so I don't wish its people or anywhere in the world. I'm a humanistic. Bad things or bad luck or hardship or anything else. No, no, no. I don't do that. Right? I don't do that. But looking at what's going on now under this administration, I don't think things will recover. No. Uh, these guys basically are just shaving off people's savings and income and so on. And that's that, right? And oh yeah, if you protest or criticize, you're anti-Semitic, and you need to go to war to kill terrorists, right? Innocent people. All right, this page is finished. Let me tell you something about the Germanics or the Northwestern European races, the white races. So the Northwestern European races mainly they're dominated by the Germanics, in numbers and history and so on and so forth. Call them Saxons or Anglo-Saxons. And then there's your Anglo and there's your other, those white Americans and New Zealand and Australia and Tasmanian devils, wombats, right? Uh, they are actually now there is the possibility of extinction. I don't mean extinction by getting killed or anything like that and so on. No, no. If whites in America and whites of Germany and England and here and there, right, did not go to war, World War One or World War Two, right now their numbers in both areas, here in the United States and in Northwestern Europe, will probably be around 1 billion. Yes, yes, you can do those. You can get like do some calculations on that. Around 1 billion probably. That would have been diversity for humanity. That would have been a good thing, right? Right now, they're on the verge of extinction. Those parasites imposed wars on you, right? And then before that, they did what? Plague, right? Remember the plague, Middle Ages, of the Middle Ages, and right? Uh, and right now, they are bringing immigration, right? I heard Dugin myself. This war in Ukraine was meant for the entire northwestern Europe, right? And that's what it is now in China. There is that part in China. I talked about AI and robbing and selling and so on. You never know. Maybe they're doing the same thing now, Trump, because he and Putin and are puppets and uh, of Netanyahu, right? And Netanyahu wants to destroy that northwestern Europe. Uh, so Dugin, who is the advisor, that with very, very long beard, right? Narrow, long beard, Rabbi Dugin, stated, and I quote, that it's time for Eurasia. He wants to, the Eurasian race. He wants to change this Northwestern Europe, the Germanics and the Scans and so on, into Eurasian race. Meaning he wants to bring millions and millions upon millions from East China and settle them into Northwestern Europe. And that was the war, the purpose of the war of Putin by order from Zion and Netanyahu and his parts, right? They wanted to eliminate that race altogether, right? And there, Netanyahu is on the record talking about Roman Empire, how he wants to defeat it, and so on and so forth. Go look it up. I'm not making this up. Uh, so maybe Trump is trying to do the same thing. I don't know. Maybe he wants to open up immigration for Chinese, like by the millions, and bring them here or something of the sort. You betcha, right? So if the Germans weren't subject to all that, the wars of all time and so on, they would be about 1 billion now. And if they had in the past converted to Islam and what Islam teaches us to do about family and so on, they would probably be more than 2 billions. They would probably be majority in the world, right? Let's put it this way. But right now, they're on the verge of extinction. Not today or tomorrow, but if things continue the way they are happening, and the course of action is the same, right? I would give it 100, 200 years maybe, and that's that, right? So that's that about the Germanics. And in World War II, it was German killing German. For what and for whom? Right? I remember this Rabbi Eisenhower. There's a place called Weiss's, I think, the Meadows, in Western Germany. After the war, they took about 1.5 million German soldiers. I'm not sure of the number, right? And they put them into West Germany in like some camps or something like that. They all died, from what I'm reading, from what I researched and so on. They all died from hunger. Rabbi Eisenhower was making sure that that's happened, right? And some in the English aristocracy, Benjamin the Israeli, right, and his descendants, they would state that Fritz is not going to come back again, or some shit like that, right? That would be sad, right? That would be sad. But where the world is going is really animal farm. Let's put it this way, and forcefully. Meantime, you Americans and whoever you are, wave a flag that's no longer meaningful. Chant Constitution that's really no longer effective, and read Constitution that's no longer effective, or you know, and while you're being led into a uh, slaughterhouse, right? Unfortunate. It happened in the Middle East before. Look it up. In my last video, I mentioned something about the Alawites, right? And then I had to go close the window because some noise, due to some noise from the upstairs apartment. When I came back, I continued, but forgot to continue. The Alawites are they're brainwashed, right? They went about killing the majority of the country in Syria, Muslims, right? Sunnis, right? Sunni Muslims, and but when things are finished, they weren't rewarded. No. Look at them now. After Rabbi Golani took over now, and his cohorts and so on, uh, uh, their future is in question. Period, right? And their God leader, who comes from Isfahan, Iran, they call themselves Assad, right? They're gone. Could that same thing happen to you, white America, white Europeans? You bet you. It works. Remember what Timon and Pumbaa said when they come and attack a certain group of people, animals and so on? And Timon says it works every time, right? Those Alawites are being crushed now. 1,000 years ago, they were founded by the same infestation. Some of them were probably kidnapped children. They made a small cult out of them in the mountains, and they grew, and they could come 1,000 years. They were in preparations, and they were under control and so on. And finally, they do what they do. What did they do? Evict 20 million, kill 22 million, made 2 million disappear, and the rest were made homeless and were pushed outside of the country, right? Made refugees, not because they allowed them to go as refugees, but because they couldn't kill them, right? And now they're being, that's it, they're being retired, I mean, really retired. I look at the white America and I look at white Northwestern Europe. I don't see anything different. I see the same thing. Let me tell you about those Islamic organizations, supposedly terrorist organizations. Not one of them is locally or established or spontaneous in establishment or group of people who decided to do so and so. In